Today we are going to start our DDL part of SQL. You remember I told you before that there are three main parts of SQL statements. One is DDL, that is data definition language, in which you work with tables usually, or you also work with databases. Yani you work with the structures. And you use create statement, alter statement, and drop statements. The second part was data manipulation language, in which you work with data. Yani you use select statement, insert, update, or delete statements. And third part is data control language, DCL, in which you work at data administrator level for making connection with data, or you control database, and you use SQL statements like connect, grant, revoke, etc. In our last few lectures, we were using DML statements, and we used select statement, update statement, and delete. We skipped insert from there. Inshallah, we will do it in this chapter. And in this chapter, we are covering, inshallah, DDL part of SQL. Yani we will be creating data definitions. Yani we will be creating tables, making changes in table structure, or drop table. And one interesting thing here is to remember that when you are working with data, we use delete statement. And if you are working with structures, yani tables or database, we use drop statement. So drop also means delete, but there is a difference. SQL uses a different statement for deleting records, which is delete, and for deleting tables, it uses drop. So let's begin. Okay, the very first statement of DDL that we are going to do today is create statement. You can use create statement. Give me wait, make it better. Let me do something. Yes, it's better now. You can use create to create a schema. You can use create to create a table, and you can use create to create views. And in this chapter, we are going to cover create tables. And to create tables, you use the statement create, and then after you use the word table afterwards. You can use create to create other structures also. For example, domain. For example, character set. For example, collation, translation, assertion, etc. But we will use in this chapter, we will use create to create tables only. So let's do it. How to use create to create tables? We write create table. If we want to write, we want to create schema, then we write create schema. Okay. This is the general format of writing the statement structures. How do we write the statements? Here in this fashion, when you see these square brackets, these represents optional part, that you can write something here or you can skip it. Okay, so for creating tables, write create table, then is table name. Okay, let me write here table name. After that, you write the first column name, and its data type. If you want to write some default values of this column, then you write it in square brackets. As you know that the square brackets are optional, you may give these values or you may skip them. Similarly, for the first column, if there are some constraints you want to apply, you can write here, or you can also skip it. So same is the case with second column and the third column. When you finish all the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as many columns as you want to have in your table, at the end, you may write some table constraints. Again, you see that this is the optional part. You may write it or you may skip it. Okay, so let's, here one thing that we saw is perhaps a new thing for you is data types. That when you are writing column names, then you write their data types, what type of data you want to store in that column. As you know, your data can be integer, it can be a decimal value, it can be a text or other data types. So we must mention it very clearly when we are creating table, that in each column what type of data we will be storing. So the question comes here, what can be different SQL data types that we can declare in creating our tables? Here are some data types from SQL which are usually used when you are creating tables. The first data type is character, and then in parentheses you write the size of the character. Here, if you declare a data type to be character, then you can store their characters only, yani A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. I think it includes your numbers also. So the maximum limits in the bracket you can write the maximum limit that you want to store. For example, if you write the maximum limit to be 20, then when you are entering data into your tables, you can enter up to 20 characters only. And this is fixed length. Note here that this is a fixed length string. You must enter, if you write 20, you must enter 20 characters. You cannot enter 19 characters. It is a fixed length. But usually when we are storing names and addresses, then length of our characters, it may vary. So at that place we should not use fixed length strings. Fixed length strings can be used, for example, your IDs numbers. These are always fixed length. Similarly, the car numbers, car number plate. The numbers there on the number plate, these are also fixed length. At such places, the length is fixed. You can use data type character to store fixed length strings. However, to store your names and addresses, you know the length of the characters varies in each name and each address. So there we use variable characters. So it is var for variable, and char, it is from character, just like here. You can read it car or you can read it char. Usually I read it varchar. So this is variable character. And the length, this is the maximum length here. For example, you want to store a name and the maximum length of character you can declare while creating your table is, for example, 25 or 30. What does this mean? It means maybe some name, it has 5 characters or even less than that. For example, Ali, it has only 3 characters. So variable character, you can change the length. Sometimes it will be 3 characters, 5 characters, 10 characters, 12, 13. so it automatically adjusts the size of the character. Next is int, yani integer. If you want to store integer values, then you declare it to be int. Similarly, if you want to store decimal values, then after writing this keyword decimal, there are parentheses. In parentheses, you write two values. First one is n, second one is d. Here n represents, in decimal value, n represents the digits before decimal, and d represents digits after decimal. For example, if I write 123.45, then here EG is, for example, here n will be digits before decimal and d are the digits after decimal. So d here is 45, two characters. So we will write here 2, okay. And before decimal, there are 3 characters. So we will write here 3. Similarly, another data type is date. When you want to store date, then you mention a format of the date and then you enter the date. And you know that the format you can use in any arrangement, whichever you like. You can show the year first or month first or days first. Different people in the world, they use different formats. Some more data types from SQL are Boolean. Boolean means you want to store two possible values, 1 or 0. So you know what does 1 represent and you know what does 0 represent. So if you want to store 1 and 0, two values only, then you declare the data type to be Boolean. Similarly, the data type can be character, as I told you before, and you can use char and you can use varchar, both. Bit, bit means you want to store one character. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is one, only one. It can be A, B, C, D, but one. Okay. Similarly, your numeric values, it can be decimal, it can be integers, as I just showed you one slide before. Date and time, interval, you can say interval values, and then you can give a range and it will store the values in between the range also. Okay. Then another part of while creating our tables were the constraints, that for each data type, for each column, we mention the column name, then we mention the data type, then we mention the constraints on that column. What are the possible constraints? You know that we saw constraints in our previous chapter, including not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check. We will see it. These constraints, you have seen it before and you know the meanings of these constraints before. Check constraint means that if you want to make a check, what are the possible values that are entered by the users. For example, if you are asking user for enter his sex or gender, the user, and you allow user to enter only F for female and M for male, then you allow to enter either F or M. If user enters any other value, for example A or B or C, these are not valid values. So we will ask user that these are not valid values, so please enter a valid value. Then we mention the constraint check. When we are creating that column, we will mention the check constraint. How to mention it? You are going to see it inshallah in next slides. Okay. Um, these constraints, not null, unique, primary key, references, check, these are column level constraints that if you want to use them like this, in this format, you will use them at column level. Yani when you are declaring the column, at that time you can use them like mentioned here. You can mention any column as not null. You can mention any column as unique. You can mention any column as primary key. You can mention any column with its references, and you can also mention any column with its check condition. Let me show you once again. See here, this is the column name, this is the data type, then is the default values, optional part, here is the constraints, and then there is a comma. After the comma, second column starts. Then there is a comma sign again. After this comma, the third column starts. Okay, and then comma, fourth column, fifth column. If you mention at the end of each column a constraint, this constraint is called column level constraint. And see, at the end of all columns, before finishing, before you started a parenthesis here, and before closing this parenthesis and semicolon, you can write constraints here. Writing constraint here are called table level constraints. How do we mention table level constraints? I'm going to show you. At table level, you will mention unique and you will mention which columns are unique. And at table level, you can mention what is the primary key. You can mention primary key at column level as well as at table level. If you want to mention any constraint at column level, this is how you mention them. Like not null, like unique, like primary key, then you don't write anything. You can use some of these constraints at table level also. When you are using at table level, this is the style how you mention at table level. At table level, when you write unique, then you have to mention which columns you are mentioning to be unique. If you are mentioning primary key, then in parentheses you should mention which column or columns are your primary key. If you are mentioning foreign key, again you should mention which columns you are referring for the foreign key and which table they are referenced to. So in references, you should mention the table name and you should also mention which column in that table. Okay, you would have noticed that only foreign key is a table level constraint and this is not a column level constraint. Besides, unique can be mentioned at column level as well as at table level. Primary key can be mentioned at column level as well as table level. Check can be mentioned at column level as well as table level. Only the foreign key is the one which is mentioned um, at table level, not at foreign level, not at column level. At column level, if you want to mention, then you mention it at with the references. It's not foreign key, it's references. Okay. At table level, you can also mention when you are mentioning foreign key, at that time you should also mention that what should be the default operations on delete. That if you want to delete this column later on from your table, what should be its new values from the column level, from the reference table. As you know before, I told you a couple of times that you can mention that when you are deleting foreign key, you should mention either on delete cascade or on delete set null. If you mention on delete cascade, what will it do? It will delete its values from its parent table, values of foreign key from the parent as well as the child. All the values will be deleted. Similarly, if you set on delete null, then it means all the child's record will be set to the null value. Okay, so let's create some of the tables and see if we understand them. So this is our first example where we are going to create a table. See here, first of all, we write create table, then we write table name, branch, then we start parenthesis. After the parenthesis, we write all the columns that we want to create. These are 4 columns that we want to create. The first column is branch number, okay, and we say that its data type is varchar. There are, you see here it is written varchar2, it's another data type. You write here varchar or you write here varchar2, there is a subtle difference. We are going to see this later on, inshallah, if we get some time. This is the data type, and then you see here 6. It means the maximum number of characters which are allowed are 6, but since it's variable, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we mention it not null. It means we cannot leave this value blank, because it is not, it is essential for us and we wish that we want this value to be necessary, user cannot skip it, so we mention it not null. Second, street, second column name, its data type, maximum characters allowed are 20. So again, not null, it means user cannot skip this value, user must enter some value here. Third column name, city, then is varchar2, and then is maximum, this is the data type varchar2. Maximum characters allowed are 10. Again, we mentioned not null, again that means user cannot skip this value. Postal code varchar8, not null. And then we mentioned here primary key, and we say that the primary key for this table is branch number. This column we mentioned here, actually what is happening, our columns are finished, and this is the closing of the create table. Before closing, we are mentioning what is the primary key of the table. Primary key of the table is branch number. Here is the branch number. This column is the primary key. We can mention primary key before closing the table. We can also mention here, while we were declaring this branch number, here we can also write it as primary key, that this column is primary key. See, I write here primary key. If I write here primary key, then I don't have to write at table level. Primary key here now is column level. It means it gives you exactly the same thing if you write it at column level or you write it here at table level. Does not make any difference. Okay. Some people like to mention it along with the column, and some like to mention it after all declaring all the columns, so they won't write all the constraints here. It's up to the style. It's your style, whichever you like. Okay guys, now it's time that we create this table by hand in our SQL Live. I'm logging in. Please, all of you also go to SQL Live and log in there. Guys, if you can see the screen, here are Oracle docs. See here, docs.oracle.com, and in these docs, there is a SQL language reference. You can also go to database Oracle database and release 19, and here you can see um, some documents on SQL. Usually these documents are very good for your learning. So I should recommend you to also have a look at them. Usually these are very nice. For example, I just typed data types, latest data types in or SQL Oracle. Then it tells you different data types which are available. See here, the data types is available, which is character, char, varchar2, nchar, and varchar2. So maybe these are the new data types and varchar, which were not in the previous one. So that's why you don't see them in the slides. Similarly, the data types are number, float, binary double. So we see, mashallah, some new data types here as well. Some of these were available previously also, but I didn't mention it just to make it simple for you in the slides. So if you want to see all of them, then you can see them here. Very nice, mashallah. And they have told you their size. They have also told you how these are different from others. I should say this is excellent document if you want to see. And here you can also see that how you can declare them. Varchar2, the size. You can also mention the bytes to be allocated, or the characters. Similarly, n varchar2, the number, the float, mashallah. I should say this is the basic reference and very nice, and you should take a look at these documents. Okay, this is another link, but this is for the programmers. This is programmer's guide, and you can see the data types here for in the programmer guides. Again, varchar2 and varchar, number, long, date, raw, long raw, etc., etc. Different data types. When you are programming, for example, in Java or any other language, which how you can use them. And this is again SQL reference document, which mentioned the predefined data types. These are the first three links that I opened from Google. So also good for you, at least the first one. See how I found them. I wrote Oracle 19C data types, and I opened first three links. So do have a look at them. Hope everyone has downloaded the slides. Guys, today we are going to type. We are not going to copy paste this create table command. We are going to type. So please, all of you, type these statements with your hand and try to see if we can make it successful. So the first line is create table, then the table name. With us, the table name is branch, so we write here branch. Then we start parenthesis. That column names are started. All of you should do the same. The first column is branch number. The data type is varchar 2, and character string we are allowing is 6. We want to mention it not null. This is the first column. Second column. Okay, all of you please type it by your hands. Guys, do not copy paste. We want to practice it, we want to learn it. Second column name is street. The data type is varchar2, characters allowed are 20, and we say it's not null. Okay, guys, first of all, please see, let me type and you see while I'm typing, and then I will give you time to type in. So that because I'm teaching you on the go, so please first look at me while I'm typing, and then I will give you time to type. Third column is city. We mentioned city. The data type is varchar2. The maximum characters which are allowed 10. We also mentioned this column to be not null. The fourth column is postcode. The data type is again varchar2. Varchar2. The maximum characters we are allowing are 8. We mention it not null. Okay. Then is our columns are finished. Then we should mention which column should be the primary key. So we say that primary key is here. We say that the column branch number is the primary key. This parenthesis is closed. You know, at the start we open this parenthesis for entering the column names. So before we close, we should close this parenthesis. This parenthesis is closed here, and then to finish the statement we enter semicolon. Then we try to run it. Let's see. We run it and it says that table is created. Okay. Then next statement is we want to see what is inside the table. So far nothing should be inside the table. Let's try to see. Select static from branch, and does it return anything to us? Okay, this statement, when you run it, it says no data found, because we just created the table, but it found the table, no data. If I want to create this table again, it will give me an error. It says that name already used by an existing object. This name, branch, I'm trying to create this table again, but it says that this table is already created. This name has been taken by another object, and that object is table. So it didn't allow. Now you guys please type all this statement by your hands and see if you can create this table. Go ahead please, guys. Now it's time to insert values into our table, and we are going to learn how to insert values into tables. This is what we skipped from the last chapter, because since we had not created the table, that's why I thought that we will learn insertion of the values when we are creating the tables. This is the statement to insert values. This statement, you should use the first two keywords, insert into, then is the table name, branch. Let me make it, for example, we make it this color, branch, and let's make it the same color just for your better understanding. Okay, insert into, these are two keywords, then is the table name, then we use the keyword values, then in brackets or parentheses we write the values that we want to insert. Our first value is branch number, so we will enter the branch number. This is B005. All the values which are your characters, variable characters or fixed characters, we write them in single quotes. Remember, all the values which are our characters, either this is character or varchar, we will write them in single quotes. The first value is the branch number. Second value is the street, yani street address. This is our street address. The third value is our city, and city is here, London. Fourth value is our postcode. This is our postcode, whatever they have right, some dummy values or something. So we mentioned here the postal code. So we have 4 columns. 4 values should be here. Value 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. So this is how we will insert our values. Let's first insert the first value, and we will type these values from our own hand so that we have an understanding. Insert into, then the table name, branch, then we write the word values. Then we have to have 5 values. Okay, the first value is the branch number, B005, B005. Second value is the address, 22 Deer Road. Then is our third value is the city. Let's say city, we say which street? I say Tahliya Street. I'm making my own with respect to our own city. The street is 22 Tahliya Street. Then is our city. I say city is Jeddah. Then is our postal code, and I say postal code. I don't know what postal codes are, but I remember I think 5 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our first value. Let's run it and see if it works. Usually it should be fast, but I don't know why it is taking so long. Maybe the server is busy on the back end, or my session is terminated. Copy. Insert values again, insert into branch values. The first value is branch number, and that is B005. Next is our street address, and we say that 22 Tahliya Street. Then is our city, and I say city is Jeddah. Then is our postal code. I say postal code is something like 5-digit number. Let's run it. The shortcut to run is Control Enter. Instead of you go there and press this button, you can press Control Enter, and you see here it says 1 row is inserted. And let's now see, select static from branch. I selected this statement and I run it. It shows me the first row that is inserted. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Let's insert another record. Second record is, we say B006, and then we say that it is 10. This time we say Sabine Street. City is Jeddah, and postal code, let's say we say 34567. I select it, I run it. It says one row is inserted. Let's see in the table, select this one, and we see the second row is also inserted. Then let's insert a third value, B007, and this time we say 5 street, we say Arbain, Arbain street, and then we say, let's say city is Makkah, and postal code we say is this. Select this record, one row is inserted. Let's see it, and we see that the next record has been inserted into the table. Okay guys, now it's time for you to please enter these records and let me know if you are successful, inshallah. Okay guys, hope it's clear. Let's go to a second example. In a second example, we want to create another table. The table name is staff, and let me make it full screen because it might be too small for you. Table name is staff. First column is staff number. Data type is varchar2. Maximum length of the characters is 8. Second column name is f name. I should say that I should type it besides while I'm doing it. Okay, so we say create table. Table name is staff, starting parenthesis. First column we say staff number, and the data type is varchar2. Maximum length of the characters is 8. Second column, first name, we call it f name. Again varchar2, and we say that maximum length of the character here is 8 also. Then is last name, varchar2, and we call it L name. Third one is position, so we say here position varchar2, and the maximum length of the character is 15. Okay, this is the ending, I'm just writing it beforehand. Then is sex. Sex is again varchar2 8. Date of birth, this is DOB, date of birth, varchar2 8. Yeah, here it says 12, and you see here date of birth, he is saying that he wants to have it as varchar2. It will not be a date now. It will be, you will be entering a date here, but as a text. Okay, this is not a good style. This I should say. Anyway, it's okay. Then salary. Salary, usually it is integers, but he says that the salary, he is declaring it as a number, and the values before this decimal, it is 7, and after the decimal it is 2. Yani the salary can be in points, like yani for example 507.03, because they may be calculating some taxes and deducting the taxes, so after tax deduction the salary may be in points. Okay, so we write here number 7,2. Then is branch number. Okay, so branch number is also here. Branch number, we are mentioning branch number is varchar to 6, varchar to 6. Now the columns are finished here. Next is the time for mentioning the primary key. We say primary key, let's say we say the primary key is staff number. Next is, we know that this branch number, it has its references back in the table branch, so we will mention it as a foreign key. So how do we mention it a foreign key? FOREIGN, foreign key. Which column is the foreign key? Branch number. So this column is the foreign key. Then we have to mention the parent table. How do we mention the parent table? We say references. References. Oh, missing spelling mistakes. Yep. Now you see here it becomes pink now. It means now it is identified as a keyword. Before I was typing it with a different spelling, so it did not recognize it as a keyword. I realized that there is spelling mistake. References, then the parent table. What is the parent table? We know that the parent table is branch, and in that parent table, which column? Okay, so we should mention the column name here, branch number, then it is complete. In this query, you say that the column number is not mentioned here. If the column number is the same, column name, this branch number is the same in branch number, perhaps it may detect it. Okay, but it is a best practice to always do it with your hands like I do it now. It is branch number also there, the same spelling. That's why. Okay, let's try it if it works. Table created. Okay guys, table has been created. It's now your time to type it in and see if you are successful in creating this table. Let's insert values. How do we insert values? Insert into, then the table name, staff, then we write the keyword values, and now we are going to insert values. First value is staff number. Oh, one moment please. Instead of, okay, I type it in here. Instead of that, I have to go back and forth. I'm typing it here just to save our time. Insert into staff values. The first value is staff number, and it is character varchar 2, so we write it in single values. Staff number, well, we give it our own value. Let's see the staff in Jeddah, we say JD, and the character value we give it, let's say 100, comma. First name, let's say the first name is Abdullah. Last name, let's say I say Samir. Then is position. Let's say the position is here. The position is, he has detected it as a keyword. Hope, yeah, it worked also for us. Okay, so position, I say that he is a manager. Then his sex is male, and we are allowing here complete male. And okay, guys, see one thing, sex here is, okay, check, we will learn it later. Let's do it here. Date of birth. Date of birth, we say it is 12 characters, so it has to be exact 12 characters. Let's say we say 12, and we say May, and we say that it should be 1995, or say 97, 4, 5, 3, 8, 9, 10, and 11 characters. Okay, so this is fine for us. Date of birth, salary. Salary, let's say we say 10,000. 1, 2, 3. This is salary. And then the branch number, which branch number he is in. Okay, guys, I have to select here a branch number because our branch number has foreign key references here, that it must come from the branch number. I remember in my branch number I entered a value B005. If I then B006 and B007. If I enter a value which is not present in the branch table, it will not accept it. Okay, first let me try to enter a wrong value, B009. This value, I know it is not there in my table. Let me show you first of all. Once again, select static from branch. Okay, let's run it. In branch table, you see value B005, 006, and 007. Okay. In staff table, I'm trying to insert a value B009, that this is the branch. And you know, branch number, it has a references back to its branch table. Yani this is the foreign key here. So a value which I am entering here should be first present in branch table. Is this value B009 here in the branch table? No, it is not. So this should not be allowed. This value should not be allowed. Let's run it and see if is it allowed. You say here, it gives an error, integrity constraint. Okay, it says integrity constraint violated, parent key not found. Parent key not found. This value is not found in the original table. Okay, so now we change it back. For example, B005. Now run it. This B005 is there in branch table. When we run it, one row is inserted, mashallah. Let's see the values from staff table. Now it is inserted. Okay, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to drop this table. Staff, I created it. I'm going to drop it. Okay, drop table, staff. Okay, that means table will be deleted. I run it. It says table dropped. Any table is deleted. Then I want to see if my table is there. I run it. Select static from staff. It says table does not exist because I dropped it. Now I'm going to create this table again, but I'm going to give this foreign key, I'm going to give this a name. Okay, name is optional, you can give it. I would say the name is let's say I say staff table foreign key. Okay, I write here foreign key staff, and this is the table name, and I would say branch number. This is my own name. I decided. I give it a, this is a foreign key, and this is in the table staff, and this is on the column branch number. Okay, you can also give a primary key, any name whichever you like to the primary key. Here I say that this is primary key of the table staff and it is on the column staff number. Okay, let's create this table again. Missing right parenthesis. It says that something is missing. Where is it? Let me quickly check. Did I miss something? Yes, I think I should write here constraint. If I want to type the name, then I should write here constraint. Let me try. Yeah, table created. And when I want to give the name, like this name, I should write the word constraint here. If I don't want to give name, then I can remove both of these and it will work. Anyway, now I want to insert a value, wrong value here. Let's say B009. I want to insert this value into this table. Let's try it. And you see here that it gave the error. Error should be there because B009 is not in the table. But I wanted to show you here which constraint is violated. Check, the constraint name is here. Foreign key, staff, and branch. When we had given a name here, then this name is shown in our error that this constraint has been violated. And I know that what I meant by this name, I meant this is a foreign key constraint. This is from the table staff. This is on the column branch number. So that's why giving the name is a good style, because later on you can understand that which constraint was violated. That's why I showed you giving the names here. When you correct this error, make it B006, try to insert it, it worked. Select static from the table staff, it shows you the record.